Here we are looking at the booty of this Volkswagen Beetle. And say hello, what's up? I'm gonna show y'all what we got accomplished on it at this point. It's the new engine that's gonna be going in it. Old engine is out. Like I said, you wanna drop down the fan module from here. It would have hit it, it would have taken out. Replacing the motor mounts on this, like I said, I'm gonna clean all this up, see how dirty it is. So that'll be what I'll be doing, cleaning all that up, getting all that ready for the new parts. It's super dirty, as you can see. See how nasty that is. So we're gonna clean all this up. We're gonna make it all nice and shine, you know, take this frame rail here and clean it and get all that crud off of it. Up under here, oh, I don't know if you can see with the glare, but yeah, it's pretty dirty there too. So my granddaddy used to always say, if you're gonna work on it, make it look like you worked on it. And that stuck with me. So some people say I'm a perfectionist, I'm a neat freak or whatever. It's really not that I enjoy cleaning stuff. It's just that that's how I was raised, you know, to just do it right or don't do it at all. So you see what I mean by how dirty this transmission was? Look at the crud in there. Now some stuff leaked, but there was crud in there too, you know. You can see the cover on this back pan where this gasket was leaking. I don't know if he'll want to replace that or not, you know. There probably is a gasket for it. It looks like it has a gasket in between. Sometimes it's just RTV glue and put it back. But this gasket, right, this seal is pretty impossible to get to once it's installed in the vehicle, because it sits pretty close up to here. So there's really not a lot of room to get in there. Move that out of the way. There's really not a lot of room to get in here once that's installed. And like I said, man, this thing is dirty. So we'll be cleaning all this up. Get it nice and shine again, right? And we'll find out if he wants to do that gasket or not. You can see it's leaking pretty good. So that gasket would come off and get a new RTV or gasket if it has one, whichever of the two. This engine is going in the basura, pretty much. Nothing's gonna happen with this engine, but we will be taking the new tensioner timing belt. That's what I'm gonna be doing next, stripping it all apart, getting the transmission separated from it. Right now I have it lifted from the intake on that side, the engine hook on this side, and these two transmission motor mount adapters there, the bolts coming all the way up to the engine hoist. So I'm gonna get some tires set up and I'm gonna drop it down. Then I'm gonna leave that on there for right now. I'm just gonna get that off, get it separated, set the engine on a tire, set the transmission on another tire, and start tackling it that way. Have the old engine off to the side over here. I'll probably tuck it away in this corner right here. I got this big old TV that I don't want to get rid of. It's a 70-inch Mitsubishi, and they just don't make them anymore. It's like the first edition of flat screen TVs they made, where they weren't like completely big, like they're a little smaller, but they still had the little bubble to the back. But it's a Mitsubishi brand. It has a real good picture. And one day it just turned off and wouldn't turn back on, and I refused to throw it away because I think it's something stupid. There's a TV repair guy down the road, but I need to go get my truck, my tag renewed and all that. So I can't really drive it legally right now because of the whole coronavirus. DMV, Department of Motor Vehicles, closed, so I haven't been able to do that, and I'm not driving the truck, so I just sat it off to the side there. I got the spare TV I'm using anyways, and just put this in the garage until I can get the truck tag up to date and get that down to the TV repair guy in the back of the truck. But anyways, in the meantime, that's there, so we'll just set that engine right here to the side, and I'll set the transmission over there. Then I'll take that engine, put it on the engine hoist, and be ready to attach the new engine to the transmission. But anyways, don't want to make this video too long. I like to also, before I wrap up, I want to say that this is a real good time to go through your harness, and you're just going through the harness and you're inspecting all your plugs and everything. I like to take the brake parts cleaner, spray a little, blow it out with the compressor, make sure you got no oil in there. And you want to look out for stuff like this. Now, I didn't do this pulling the engine out. This was like this before I pulled the engine. You see that? I noticed that was like that from one of the motor mounts is bad. Well, both of them really. And the engine had flex when you would rev it, and it was pulling on this plug here. And so, yeah, you want to go through and inspect. This will get fixed. And you want to go through and inspect the rest of the harness and just double check that all the wiring there is good. The power steering pump, I left with fluid in it attached. The reservoir is here, and the pump is down here, and the line is there. So no need to remove that. I did have to remove the AC compressor, as you see over here next to the battery. I did have to detach that because to get the engine out of the way, the AC line comes down that way, so you're gonna have to release the Freon there. And then to get the core support radiator out of the way, you're gonna detach from the receiver dryer. So yeah, the AC needed to be evacuated. There's no way around that. But that saves you money on power steering. There's no need to disconnect the power steering lines and lose your power steering fluid. You're already buying automatic transmission fluid, engine oil, coolant, more AC refrigerant. There's no need to have to go buy power steering fluid. So we leave that sealed up on there. Again, like I said, this transmission, we're gonna use the same transmission, whatever this FD, I guess it looks like a D, could be a O, F transmission is. It's staying on. We're not replacing the transmission. I will remove this coil pack just to give myself a little more room to get the transmission on and off. I'll remove this cooling system housing, just because it gives me a little more visibility up top. And before I lower this thing down on the ground, for those of you that are wondering what's the easy procedure to detach the transmission from the engine, I actually jack it up a little bit on this engine hoist. I get everything off top. I got to take the starter off, obviously. And then I'll loosen all the bolts on the bottom and leave the bolts on top. And leave just everything on the bottom already out. And then I'll set it down on top of the tire, right? And I'll have the engine with one tire under it and the passenger side transmission with another tire. And you have your two front tires there. And on these, they're steel rims. So there's no, they have plastic hubcaps, so there's no worry of scratching them or damaging them. If you did have fancy rims, you could put a protective, nice thick towel and some cardboard underneath the towel, whatever. But you set it down on there, because the tire will give you some wiggle, and then you just kind of use a pry bar. Once the bolts are loosened, you separate the two. But disconnect everything on bottom first. Set them both down on a tire. Engine and transmission get their own tire. And then you loosen everything up top, get the bolts out, wiggle it with a pry bar, and get it to separate. So that is the procedure. that I'm getting ready to start on now. And I'll get these two separated and I'll call it a night. I just wanted to document one engine coming out, another engine going in. So that's half the battle right there. At this point also, I want to say it's a good time to really know what it's going to cost you to put it back together, because you really don't know what's going to break until it's all completely taken apart. And everything's taken apart now. I mean, the transmission still has to be separated, but nothing's going to break doing that. But like your radiator that broke, the coupler on the top there, you know, the vacuum pump was cracked. You know, there's stuff that breaks. You have a couple of damaged pigtails on the harness. I didn't damage them. Whoever was working on this before damaged them. So, you know, you know what you're going to need to make a trip to the junkyard for, or what you're going to need to order online, however you're going to do it at this point when everything's been pulled. And then you go, obviously, get everything you need, make one good engine out of the two, reattach the transmission, and go from there. I'm running out of brake parts cleaner. They sell you a box of 12 at O'Reilly's. I'm down to 4. That's not going to be enough to clean this. I use the brake parts cleaner. I use a brush. I use gasoline, a mixture of all three, the shop air, you know, and that's how I get this clean. First, I hit it with a brush and some gasoline and some rags, blow everything off, and then I go for one last final hit with the brake cleaner and blow it off one more time. That's how I get that clean. So we'll get this as clean as we possibly can transmission wise. We'll have that transmission ready, and we'll wait for motor mounts. I can't put it back in until we get motor mounts. If y'all remember, I talked to y'all about waiting for motor mounts. And here's our calendar. Today is May the 15th. So that'll be done tonight. I'll work on some more cleanup stuff tomorrow. I'll take Sunday off. And on the 18th, I'll probably go to the junkyard on Monday. And I'll patch up some stuff on it, like that wiring and stuff, when I come back. The 19th, I'm not sure. They say that by the 20th, the motor mounts will arrive. Sometimes they arrive the day before. We'll see how that works. But by the 20th, the motor mounts arrive. So until those motor mounts arrive on the 20th, this engine can't go back in. So on the 20th, everything will be ready. Just put the motor mounts in and drop the engine in place. Sometime around the 20th at night or the 21st at the latest, expect to see another video with the engine going back into the vehicle. These motor mounts are not going to be reusable. I'll show you how bad they are. See it? I don't know how well. Yeah, so it's completely ripped inside of there. You can see it leaking out from the back. Ripped all the way through. So yeah, these motor mounts are no good. And the passenger one is in the car over there, and it's the same situation. The dog bone that goes on the bottom is shot also. This car just needed motor mounts bad all the way around. So we are playing the waiting game on motor mounts. We'll use our time wisely. We'll clean up. We'll patch up wires. We'll address hoses. We'll be swapping one timing belt over from this engine to that engine. We'll stay busy. Tinkering with it here and there. Come the 20th, that engine will be completely assembled with everything the way it's going to go in, attached to this transmission, nice and clean. Everything in there will be clean. The motor mounts will come in. It'll all get bolted in, and we'll go from there. So if everything arrived on the 20th that I needed, And I'm guessing by the 21st it's put back together. And on Friday the 22nd, I'm taking this thing for a test drive. So hopefully, I like to test drive it real good on the 22nd, park it overnight, make sure it doesn't leak anything, and then set up an appointment to give this back to the owner on the 23rd, most likely. 22nd, 23rd, depending on parts arriving on time, is when this will be done. So expect one more video on this car showing you the full assembly once it's put back together. I'm not going to do a video on swapping the timing belt from this engine to that engine because, guys, in all honesty, there is a ton of videos online about how to do the timing belt on this car. They tell you to time it by looking at the mark in through this hole right here. On the transmission bell housing, the torque converter will line up to the point where you can see that mark, and that's your mark for the bottom crank. And then the cam pulley has the mark here, and that's the mark on the cam right there. That little indentation in there would line up there. And obviously you want to be on your compression stroke. TDC, top dead center. So I will pull that spark plug out to make sure that I'm on TDC. And then I get like a little piece of paper or something, plastic bag, a little rip a piece and shove it in the hole. And as you're turning it, if it spits it out, it's because you're on the compression stroke. If it doesn't, it's because you're not. Pretty simple, right? So that's how I know if I'm on compression stroke or not. Align your timing marks on compression stroke, top dead center. Make sure, pull the spark plug. No timing mark on the crank pulley over here, even though I put one on it, so it does have one. And make sure your torque converter lines up over here before. So I'm not setting this motor in time. Well, you know what? I am going to set it in time just to be safe. But I really don't need to because that motor's not going in. This motor's going in, and it does need to be set in time. And I'm assuming when I take this transmission off that torque converter has some kind of a guide or something to where it only bolts on in one position. And that's how they know that timing mark on that torque converter times the engine. So I'm curious to see that when I pull the transmission off. I'll set this in time before I do it. And then I want to obviously come over here and make sure that this one is lined up to where it's properly timed also. So I'll make sure top dead center, I'll pull all this off. I'll make sure my cam lines up. I'll make sure I'm on compression stroke, all of that. I'll turn the crank, make sure everything lines up to where I'm on compression stroke. And then I'll look at that flywheel, flex plate, whatever, and see where it's at. I'll put a mark of my own so that I know, and then I'll compare it with what I see on that one. So I'm not going to do a video on it because honestly, I've seen one too many videos online on the timing on these 2.0s, and they're good videos, y'all. Like this guy, he's some kind of fancy pants engineer, and the guy did a good video. Not even gonna lie, he did a really good video on it. So there's that video, and there's a bunch of other ones too out there. So feel free to learn from those timing job videos. I know how to do it. I'm not gonna do a dedicated video to it. I'm struggling with this camera. Again, don't want to sound redundant repeating it, but this is mainly just to cover my ass and show one engine coming out, another engine coming in. Thanks for watching, you guys. Stay safe. We'll see y'all on, what is this, part 2 or 3? I think this is part 3. We'll see you on the next video on the 20th. Anyways, God bless y'all. Peace.